Hi, my name is Ryan, and trigger warning, I'm vegan. So Carnivore MD, aka Paul Saladino, made a video recently showing that there's some wild new science out there that proves that all us vegans secretly crave meat. And I was first made aware of this video from Angie, actually. She was watching Brian Turner on Instagram. He did a little Instagram short reacting to this video. So I'm going to expand on that. I think Brian did a good job. There's only so much you could say in like 59 seconds or so. So anyway, I'm going to respond in more detail and depth to this bold claim that all vegans crave meat. And let's just jump right into Paul's video.
Vegans still crave meat. Don't believe me?
No, I don't believe anything that anyone says just because they said it on TikTok or an Instagram short. No, extraordinary claims, and this is indeed an extraordinary claim. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, as I first heard from my favorite scientist of all time, Carl Sagan. And he's right. You know, if you're going to make some bold claim like that like all us vegans crave meat, you better have some damn tight, solid evidence. It better be airtight. Like, this is an extraordinary claim. You just can't have flimsy, shaky, bro science evidence like you usually do, Saladino. It better be pretty tight. And furthermore, whenever he says anything, I have immediate skepticism because of past stuff he said like this before, like how plants are trying to kill us. Oh, really?
Vegans still crave meat. Don't believe me? There's a very interesting study that shows that vegans and vegetarians...
All right, so right off the bat, we can throw out what Paul Saladino said about vegans craving meat because there were no vegan subjects in this study. Do you understand that, Paul? Vegans are not vegetarians. Look here, the study says there were only vegetarian, as far as the plant-based eaters, there were only vegetarian subjects, no vegans. And by the way, they defined vegetarian as someone who had not eaten any meat or fish within the past year's time. But anyway, as we'll see, he has a very flimsy understanding of this study, and I think he just read the abstract. I don't even think he read the full study like I did.
When we put electrodes on their brain, at a conscious level, they may have an aversion to meat.
So Saladino wants to just quickly gloss over this part of the study. There are two parts of the study. Yeah, the part where they measure the brain waves with those electrodes, and the second part, which was a more traditional survey, like, you know, the subjects answer questions. And in the survey part of the study, yeah, the plant-based eaters, the vegetarians, made it very clear that their reactions to animal-based foods was clearly unpleasant.
But at a deep-seated evolutionary level, they still have a positive response to things like meat and nutrient-rich foods like organs.
All right, so this is completely misrepresenting what the results of the study were. Nowhere in the study, in the discussion part of the study, did the authors say, yeah, the vegetarians had a positive response when they saw these animal-based foods. No, let me read you exactly what they said. In marked contrast with the subjective data, you know, the questionnaire stuff we just talked about, no group differences were observed in any of the electrode brain measurements, suggesting that similar neural processing of food cues occurred in the vegetarian and omnivore participants. So in case you missed what happened here, on one hand, Paul is saying that the vegetarians who, in the survey, through their words, they're saying, hey, we're repulsed by these meat and animal products, but he's saying that their brain waves are spiking. Yes, 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 these foods look awesome. And that's not what the research shows here. It just says that both groups, the meat-eating group and the vegetarian groups, had pretty much identical results when it came to the electrode readings. Doesn't mean that the vegetarians were overly positive about meat. Just as much, it doesn't mean that like meat eaters were overly positive when they saw broccoli presented to them.
So why do you think the most successful plant-based companies make things that look like meat?
Is he just completely stupid and ignorant, or is he just knowingly saying that this is wrong just to be part of his grift? Like, no, plant-based meats main primary target audience is not vegans. If so, they wouldn't make that much money because they're like 2% of the population. Like, case in point, you know, I often go to Disneyland, Disney California Adventure in the mornings to have breakfast. I have an annual pass. Don't hate me. I have a local SoCal residence pass. Anyway, I go there and have this shawarma breakfast wrap, and they sell out quickly. Breakfast ends technically at 11, but I got to make sure I get there before 10:30, or those things sell out. It's not because a bunch of vegans beat me to it, because they're delicious, and most people that eat them are not vegans, and that's just not my opinion. In fact, let's take a look here. About 90% of fake meat is consumed by non-vegans, so shut up with this this whole fake meat thing is for us vegans because we secretly crave meat. I know that's where he's going, right?
They make fake meat burgers and fake steaks because all of those well-intentioned vegans and vegetarians,
as well as the way more numerous meat eaters
who are not eating the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet, still want to think they're eating these foods and still are craving them at some unconscious level.
I mean, I'm going to be totally generous. Maybe Saladino is right. Maybe some of the subjects in the study craved meat, even though the study did not show that, but some of the subjects were only vegetarian for about a year. You know, that's the minimum requirement for their definition of vegetarian. And I must admit, if you have only been a vegan or vegetarian for a year, perhaps you still crave meat. I don't know, but as a long-term vegan, somebody who's been vegan over 13 years, I can tell you completely sincerely, I do not crave meat. Angie doesn't crave meat in the slightest bit. I've analogized it to how I perceive poo. If I'm walking on the street and I see some poop on the floor, I don't look at that and go, should I consider that as something I should consume? No, it's horrible. It's disgusting. And when I see a steak on someone's table, I have the same reactions I do when I see feces. Just saying.
And so when they see them, or they see some facsimile of them, they're drawn to them.
So what he just said there is not in the study. And that's what he does. He sprinkles stuff, like he'll say something that's from the study, then he'll say something that's not from the study, something in his own imagination, his own fantasy, and your average viewer will not be able to distinguish what's what because they didn't read through the entire study, just like Paul Saladino didn't read through the entire study. But I did. Here's the discussion section. It makes no mention about how vegans are secretly craving meat all the time, even though we might say we're not, but our brains reveal otherwise. And one thing that Saladino just conveniently failed to mention, a very important fact, a very important detail about this study, is that all the test subjects, vegetarians included, were in a food-deprived state. They had been doing some fasting prior to this experiment. So do you see what's going on here? Saladino is claiming that all vegetarians, all vegans, their brains are craving meat. Well, this study only studied vegans and vegetarians who are starving. So if there's any conclusions that could be made about vegetarians from this study, remember, not vegans, because the vegetarians were studied, not vegans, the only conclusions could be made about only starving vegetarians. There's nothing in here about what happens when a perfectly full, satiated vegan or vegetarian sees an image of meat and how their brain reacts. Does the brain react in such a way as a person who's starving reacts? Also, Saladino's assuming when a starving vegetarian is presented with an image in the study of a cheeseburger, the vegetarian's not perceiving it as a vegetarian cheeseburger. As he admitted, yeah, there's all these tasty vegan burgers that look almost exactly like meat. Vegan cheese pretty much looks exactly like non-vegan cheese. So yeah, if you're a starving vegetarian and you see something that you've eaten before but plant-based, it looks like meat but it's not, you're going to react in a positive way. And again, the fact that all the subjects, the meat eaters and the vegetarians, were very hungry when the study was conducted, and they're seeing all these different images of different kinds of foods, that could have increased, and this is the author's own reason here, not mine or Saladino's, that the participants' state of hunger might have increased the relevance of non-vegetarian food for vegetarians and of vegetarian food for omnivores, thus canceling out any expected effect. Meaning all these test subjects were very hungry when the study was happening, and they're seeing images of food and their brains were lighting up on anything. So you just can't say, oh, the vegans have this deep-seated hunger for eating animal foods because they're so nutrient rich and they're not getting them. No, I mean, the same thing could be said of these meat eaters. Like, oh, they're missing out on all the fiber and all the great phytonutrients of plants. So when they see a picture of broccoli, their brains are lighting up. Nope, it doesn't mean either of those. It just means that these people are hungry and there's some deep-seated functions in the brain when they see images of food and you're hungry, your brain is going to respond in some kind of positive manner. I mean, is that too wild of a conclusion? But no, Saladino just sees it one way and one way only, that vegans have this deep-seated, rooted, desired cravings for meat because we're starving to death.
That is because these are the foods that made us human. These are the foods that humans have been eating for hundreds of thousands of years.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Of course he saw it like that, but here's some further evidence, as if we need any more, that he's completely wrong. Let's look at another study that was referenced in the discussion here in 2009, in which the test subjects were not food deprived. And guess what? The results were how you would expect them, that there were larger amplitudes, negative ones, for meat food and vegetarians compared to the omnivores.
Please do not fear meat and organs. These are the foods that help humans thrive.
Again, more deliberate misinformation from a grifter here that has everything to gain by you following his TikTok and buying his expensive supplements. And why is he selling supplements if meat is this complete nutritionally rich food and all that? I mean, he's making it sound like if you're not eating all his organ meats and taking his supplements, you're going to be sick and nutritionally deficient. And there's nothing further from the truth. Again, don't take my word. I'm not a medical professional, and don't listen to him. He's just some lone maverick guy on TikTok rambling about how plants are going to kill you and how vegans are all craving real meat. No, let's listen to the opinions of health professionals from around the world who have reviewed the relevant research in nutrition and plant-based diets, and they have come to a pretty broad general consensus that well-planned vegan diets are nutritionally adequate for all people in all stages of life. And yes, this includes you athletic types like myself too. So let's see, did Paul Saladino meet the burden of proof to our satisfaction here to support his extraordinary claim with some extraordinary evidence? Let's see, that all vegans are somehow, in their brains at least, secretly craving meat. Well, once again, the study didn't have a vegan group. They had a vegetarian group and a meat-eating group. So you can't make any claims about vegans whatsoever. If anything, you can make claims about vegetarians perhaps secretly craving meat. Well, no, not so fast, because the vegetarians in the state were they're food deprived, they're hungry. So their brains may have been reacting to the visual stimuli in a way that they would have not reacted if they were not hungry, which was borne out by the 2009 study. And you can't even say that the brains of these starving vegetarians were reacting positively to meat, because remember, the researchers concluded that the brain reactions of the two groups were identical. They were all reacting in the same way to meat, to vegetables, to fruits, whatever they were shown food-wise. The two groups were indistinguishable as far as their electrode brain patterns were. So how in the fuck, Paul, do you get off saying that vegans or vegetarians are somehow secretly craving meat all the time? Well, you can't. You're just lying and grifting. You either didn't read the study, you just read the abstract, or you just didn't care. You just twisted the little bits you wanted out of the study and conveniently left off some of the more important details to fit your narrative, your grift about carnivore diets and how plants are killing us. I was kind of bummed when I found Paul's page on Instagram to see that a few old friends of mine actually followed him. Like, really? Like, how could these guys think what he's saying is makes any sense or is cool? I've totally lost the respect to him. I also want to point out too that for the Happy Healthy Vegan Instagram, we're blocked there, as you can see here. I mean, I'm like, why did he block us on Instagram? It's Angie's page on Instagram. She just puts up pictures of like us going out and having food. We don't like say controversial stuff. I guess he's still butthurt from a challenge I put out to him several years ago. He thought he was hot shit because he challenged like a 70-year-old Dr. McDougall to a Spartan race. So I said, hey, I'm a lot older than you, Saladino. Let's go one-on-one on basketball and see how he fares. And I guess that was enough to get blocked on Instagram. So anyway, guys, leave your questions and comments down below. What do you think about this whole grift of vegans craving meat? I mean, did he prove anything here? Did he have enough extraordinary evidence to like make that definitively proven? I say absolutely not. It's a complete joke, complete grift. Let me know your thoughts down below. So hit like, share this video, and remember, despite all this nonsense, it doesn't suck being vegan. See you on the Friday live streams.